Episode number 37, the Cellar Club podcast. We are ready. Ken's ready. Anna's ready. I'm ready. Drop that beat. Well, here we go. Very important topic today. And this one's actually a little bit more in my situation, so I figured I'd ask the experts that are here.
Whoa,
Personal.
we gotta pause because Glenn's ready to roll. Like where's the pleasantry? Where's
Hi,
the
Glen.
appetizer?
Oh,
Like,
sorry.
Hi, Glenn.
Take you guys
Hi,
out
Glenn.
to eat first.
Hi,
You know.
hi, listeners.
Hi, listeners.
Hi,
Sorry, everybody.
As Ken would say, the appetizer.
The appetizer.
Yeah,
the cherry on
appetizer.
top.
Come on.
Well, everyone's appetized now.
yeah.
No, not a cherry on top, or Ken's going to steal it off your
Oh, that-
milkshake. We already
true.
established
Yeah,
that.
Okay, that's
that's
dessert.
appetizer.
That's dessert later on.
That's
Yeah, it's
right.
dessert. Yeah, appetizer.
Now you get it.
Wait. Okay, let's go around. What's your favorite appetizer? Like,
Ooh.
Well, one of my favorite, probably still qualifies for vegan. I don't know if they have this or not, like if it's in their batter, but one of the worst appetizers you can ever eat, but it's the best. Bloomin' onion
Oh,
from
Lord.
Outback.
yes. It's so good.
If you eat
Wow,
that
I
whole
was-
thing, I don't remember what
You
the
die.
calorie count was. Yeah.
Just die.
oh, it's like I think it was like last time I checked it was like 15, 18.
How much
Yeah,
of
it
it
was
is the
ridiculous.
sauce, though? It's so
Yeah,
good.
yeah, that's without the sauce, right?
Yeah.
That's just the onion.
That's just the batter fried onion.
Ugh,
Yeah.
That's
heavenly.
going straight to your heart.
That is so whoever invented that probably was funded by the big pharma.
Hot take there.
Hot take.
Right? I
Oh,
mean, imagine that. It's everybody knows about it.
Yeah.
Like we're in different worlds.
But also,
right?
like,
We're in
it's a
different states.
vegetable. It's an onion as, like, a main.
Yeah.
It's not just the, like, side ingredient.
Yeah.
It's
not
in
even,
the
like-
spotlight. I
Like,
think it's brilliant.
It's like exactly. It's not even like hard to
No.
find. It's not even like hard to prepare. Cut them up. I've seen them how to prepare it. Like you can make it in your home, but everybody has a fryer, right? And then you just put in a batter and
mean,
then put the sauce.
but,
and,
like,
and feed you some.
do you really think one you make at home would be as good, though?
No, never.
They put the
Especially
magic
with all
in
the
there.
work that you have to do.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot of work. That's a lot of oil.
Yeah.
It is a lot of oil.
begin
It's like
with.
frying a turkey or something.
So apparently they have
But-
a 3-point bloomin' onion, which apparently there's like, it's like kind of stacked, kind of layered.
okay.
So onions on top, fries, and then steak on the bottom.
What?
So if you eat this whole thing, it's 3,080 calories. If you eat just the bloomin' onion, I don't think this is without the sauce. It's 1,900 calories. So
19.
1,900.
100,
So
not
yeah,
1,000.
1,900.
I'm
but still,
surprised.
your
I would've
2,000
guessed
calories
1,000.
is a general.
That's what I said. 1800.
Yeah,
something like that.
you're very, very close on that. That's
Yeah, because I've taken like what's your is it BMR, like how many calories do I need to just maintain like activity, right, regular activity. It's 1,500, like that's all I need.
Man. Oh.
Anything over that,
Okay.
anything over that I'm eating, if I'm not burning it, then it becomes stored fat.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and then you eat one blooming onion, I'm like,
yeah for the whole
Just
day. That's all you
one.
get.
Just
that'll be
one
it for the
whole
whole
entire
day.
bloomin' onion. They're really big.
yeah, just
though.
one, and then all.
Yeah.
And then like, well, yeah, I probably could eat like at one point I probably able to eat half. Yeah, I think me and Glenn killed one.
So are we just
easily.
agreeing right now
Way
that
back
this is
then.
all of our favorite appetizer, or
It has to be every like I haven't seen unless you hate onions. I haven't seen anybody turn down a blooming.
Yeah.
I
sure.
have seen people who do hate onions like bloomin' onions.
Oh.
Riddle me that. So, official sponsor of the Cellar Club podcast, brought to you by the bloomin' onion. Maybe we can work that out. Just spitballing
should.
here.
Oh, maybe
We can-
Actually, though,
we should.
I have to ruin the harmony because my favorite of all time, I think, probably appetizer is fried pickles.
Oh,
Another
that's up there,
deep
too.
fried vegetable, though.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah.
not really that different if you think about it.
Yeah. I would go with a good Glenn knows more about this. You know how they do like those honey spicy cauliflower thing, like roasted cauliflower thing.
Okay.
That's your
kind of like a honey
favorite
sriracha.
of all time?
No, it's good. It's good. I don't think I have. Well, put it this way: I don't have anything I don't like in the appetizer menu in America.
Okay, well, you're the one who asked us to say our favorites. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
You gotta commit.
I would say my. Okay, I would say loaded fries.
Okay.
A good
You can't go
loaded
wrong
fries.
with a potato, honestly. Look at
Yeah,
us.
yeah,
Like,
good.
we're vouching for these vegetables left, right, and center.
Yeah.
Just fried.
Just right.
Yeah, I think me and Glenn, there was one point when we did out hustled. We'd go to Applebee's.
Oh yeah.
That was me and Glenn's favorite.
Thank you. A ton of
place.
appetizers.
Yeah.
And it was just appetizers. That's all we
Yeah.
did. Like, right? Because like they had appetizer special.
They
or
had,
something
like,
like
appetizer
that.
happy
3
hour
for
probably,
20 or
right?
something like
Yeah.
that.
Keep 'em coming.
Yeah, and that's all we did. We just, I was like, and that's why we have heartburns in our early 30s.
Yeah, exactly. I'll take its toll.
Even when there are not fried pickles around, I have been known many times for years to ask if there's any kind of pickles at all on the menu or like with the burgers or anything.
So you can fry?
No, I just ask them, could I have a side of pickles?
Oh, side?
But my line is, I would like as many as you're allowed to give me. And it is amazing the variety of amounts of pickles you get
Serving,
by
yeah.
asking that question that way. Sometimes it's like
Wow.
literally a cereal bowl of pickles. And sometimes it's like,
Wow.
here's 2 pickles instead
j-
of 1 pickle. So just
Wow.
depends.
So there you have it, guys.
Podcast is over.
I don't think appetizer is that healthy now that we realize it.
On to the main course.
Exactly.
All right, so there goes the appetizer. So everybody that's listening, I think Anna have dubbed it earlier that this is gonna be the summer of surprise, brought to you by Hustle.
Apparently.
It's just been lining up with our schedule and with just the thought process that we're going through, with all the things that we're working behind the scenes. Glenn has been coming in clutch with all the summer surprises, and it seems like all the listeners have been liking it, and we're gonna give it to you, on this episode. So Glenn,
Take it away.
Take the mic.
Surprise us.
Take it away.
Surprises. Share with everybody. Okay. So my question to both of you is regarding hiring someone or people for your eBay business.
I love this question already.
Yeah, so I have different aspects of that as well. But I want to start off with, I guess, maybe the basic. How do you know that you need to hire to start off? Like, what are the signs or things you should know in your business, like, that would, hey, you need help here type of thing? So let's start off with that first. What would you say, Ken?
I would say there's 2 things, and probably could speak on one, and if Anna can jump in. One would be if you're in growth mode and you just totally you realize after a year.
Okay, so you want to get used to the
'Cause I
eBay business before even hiring anybody. Like, you learn the platform.
Yeah. You have to know. I feel like you have to know everything. You have to be at least good at everything, not great. Then you can, focus on more things, and kind of like for me, like I feel like I'm great at sourcing. I'm not great at listing, but I found a way to have somebody great in that place. So when you're in the growth mode, I think after a year, if you've polished everything and you still realize like I need more time, that's when you figure out, okay, what's the one that I can delegate that takes the least amount of kind of like importance, right? That's not very vital. So I would say like shipping really was a big thing because we've had part-time help. Shipping was like, shipping can be every day. So that's one. And 2 is when you need to step back and take more time for yourself to do other things, to unplug yourself a little bit from your business. I think those are the 2 times that you need. If you're in growth and you still want to keep growing, you have to hire. And two, if you've reached the level that you like and you want to unplug a little bit more, you have to hire. So those are the two things.
Yeah.
Interesting. So your answers are actually when you want to grow, higher, but when you want to pull back, higher.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
okay,
I
that's
totally,
interesting.
I totally agree
Anna?
with that. I think those are two like really closely related, but kind of two different scenarios. A little bit like two different goals, right? Two different motivations for why you hire. But I think like no matter what, you're like for anybody, but I am thinking about you, Glenn, and like your business. You're not.
Okay.
This isn't your first year. You know, obviously, you've been in the game a while. But like the first thing I think you should start thinking about this is when you feel like you're at max capacity, right? Doing it yourself, you're at max capacity. So then the decision tree becomes, can I tighten up any of my processes to free up some of my capacity and keep going and keep growing by myself? Or this is probably where you are, do I have super clear, well-defined processes and I'm just truly maxed out and I'm starting to find bottlenecks in my processes? I'm starting to run into bottlenecks because I'm at max capacity and I have good processes. So if you can free up some more capacity, either to grow or to pull back by being more efficient, tightening up your processes, changing something, or even just like defining your own processes better, right? If you can do that, then do that first. But if you truly are at your max capacity and you have really good, well-defined processes, then that's when I say let the bottlenecks teach you where you need to hire. Like, where are you running into bottlenecks in the life cycle of your items, and what would you be willing / most easily able to efficiently teach someone else to do? Like, what are the tasks they'd be willing to hand off, right? Maybe that means the stakes are low because there's not a huge chance of them like really messing something up that would like hurt your business if they did it wrong or something. And or it might be something that's more simple to teach so that you're not spending a ton of time training somebody. Because also it's going to be at max capacity already. It's going to be an additional task to find someone to try them out and train them. You know, there's some more kind of like mental and time and, you know, financial overhead that comes with trying to get somebody in that position, whatever it is as you define it. So I think, you know, letting those bottlenecks like teach you where you need the most help and where it would be the most effective to bring in somebody else is a good way to look at it.
So my first one actually that I have here on my notes is like, you know, defining the clear roles and responsibilities that you want this person to do. But before I go back into that, which you already mentioned, but I want to, like, what about in Ken's situation? You're saying something that they could tackle that's like, you know, not easy, but at least important. What about having them do things that you don't want to do?
Totally.
It's important, but you don't want to do it.
Well, I was gonna say sometimes it's a bottleneck because it's the thing that you naturally
like
avoid the most, and then it builds up, right? Like,
yeah. I think there's a lot. To be honest, I feel like there's a lot of things I don't like to do, but there's not really a lot. When put it this way, like when we were like hitting capacity and stuff like that, because I really like doing what we were doing, kind of like, I think let's put it into like 2022. I love traveling, I love live streaming, I love selling, I love sourcing. So none of that was really like I wanted to outsource, but what I outsourced was my laundry, my food. You know, like I didn't have to cook, I didn't have to clean, I didn't have to laundry, which really freed with a lot of time between me and JC because I cooked, JC laundry. So that's kind of like how I saw it because I really like what I was doing.
Yeah.
But you know, over time, it's not sustainable, right? Like you can't really, you know, like for example, like first thing, like I think you have opportunities to buy more products, but you cannot really live stream for 4 or 5 hours every day, right? Or you have to find a way to list the product so you don't have to live stream and be there. So I think those are what do you not like doing? I think that's the question. But also too, it's gonna be like the hiring. You gotta hire well because you gotta find a person that likes what you don't like.
True. And that's what I wanted to go back to Anna's statement with the clear roles and responsibilities.
Is Glenn trying to tell us that he's going to replace...
What, Anna?
Is Glenn trying to tell us that he's going to replace himself as a Cellar Club host?
I'm going to hire out and then someone else just comes in. Hey guys, episode number 37. I'm in
this
here
is
just ready for him.
Schmusler Schmacks.
Yeah. And I'm here just to replace him. The least thing he wanted to do.
If that's what you're doing right now, you are so sneaky, and I'm so impressed.
So clear roles and responsibilities, though.
Yeah.
So, okay, you're saying hire somebody to, let's say, for example, ship. So we're looking for somebody to manage a certain role, or we're looking for a be-all. Hey, maybe some days you're going to ship. Maybe some days you're going to take pictures. Maybe some days you're going to list.
I
What do you
think
think,
maybe
Anna?
so. Maybe so. I think you should definitely, if you can find someone that you think has potential to be that, try them first. But I do think that for the sake of kind of a trial period or seeing how they learn, seeing how you work together, man, there's nothing to me about a work environment that's more important than like basically having a good work environment and good relationships, right? So like if you end up being like, wow, it's been 3 weeks and this person is really getting on my last nerve already, that's not somebody you want around and also in all of the nooks and crannies of your business, right? So I think that for the sake of trying somebody out, and like don't be fooled, like I was super fortunate because my like number one contractor who's done so much for me is my sister-in-law, and she's like literally my relative, where our husbands are brothers and we love each other, we get each other, we think like each other, and it was wonderful working together. But that is not a guarantee. Even if everything I said before the last statement was true, you still might not work well together. You have to try it. So I just think like if you can get somebody to really master one task or one skill first, that'll give you a really good idea of what makes them good at that skill. And can they become the jack of all trades that you need? I think maybe they can become that, but they've got to start mastering one thing. Because, and I feel like this is a statement that I like have my own sort of controversial feelings about, but the idea that how you do one thing is how you do everything, right? So don't give them everything right away. Give them one thing and see what happens with that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Ken?
I agree with that because yeah, if you suck at shipping, you're gonna suck at photos. You know what I'm saying? If you don't care enough, I think you gotta find that person. Agree with like having a good relationship, kind of like at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, it's a relationship that's more important because you gotta have to build trust, right? I think, especially in the type of business that we are trying to run, right? Like maybe a very small operation. It's not like we're building a building that has security guards and everything like that. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not like an enterprise that, okay, I mean, if you mess up, if you screw me, I'm going to sue you. It's not like that situation. So it feels like we are, as business owners, are more vulnerable on that side rather than them going to work for a big corporation where they already feel like, okay, this corporation can crush me if they want to, if I mess up on them, or they could easily fire me. So I think
well, and just from a practical standpoint, Ken, like what you're saying, think about what makes somebody good at shipping that would also make them good at photos. Like they have a really granular level of detail, right? They pay really close attention to details. Mm-hmm. They see something that needs to be done and they just do it. Right? They like anticipate, oh, you know what? I need to show every possible angle of this. Maybe they take direction really well. If you tell them to adjust something about the way they're doing, they change it quickly and it stays changed, right? They adapt. Maybe they're fast. They're able to like learn fast. They're able to execute fast. And they kind of, in my opinion, they have to at least on some level enjoy the task, right? Like we've all experienced how enjoyable it can be to like photograph or like churn through a bunch of a bunch of items to get them listed or churn through a bunch of stuff on the shipping table. And of course, like after a while, anything repetitive gets to be kind of like grindy or can feel burned out or whatever, but you want to see like that spark with them that they're like, yes, this is like kind of satisfying to do this task over and over because that's what you're hiring them to do. So I think that all those things are things you need to like look for and watch for as you kind of evaluate their performance and work alongside them.
Now here's like a funny, well, not funny, but I've actually heard this from there's actually 2 sellers that this happened to that me and Ken had talked to where they did hire out, right? And they did learn multiple aspects of the business. Well, it got to the point where this worker was like, well, I know where you source now too, because when you come to the office, to the business, to home, wherever you have them working, I know where you source. I've learned every aspect of your business. Now I'm just going to start my own eBay business. And now I'm going to compete with you because I know where you source. Now, is that an issue, or is that something that you look past at like, well, I don't see that really happening, or maybe you're hiring somebody that wouldn't happen, but realistically, if you have them only doing one part of the business, they're not really going to understand the rest if they're not relatable.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about that?
I think that's true. And also, like, there are a lot of people who don't want the responsibility and the ongoing, you know, running a business. Like, they don't want to run a business. They want to show up, do their job, and get paid and be done, you know? Like, so I think you can have a candid conversation with most people. And maybe if that changes at some point, you know, then that's a different conversation. But I think it's like, I think it would be a lot for somebody to, you know, get to know you and have a good relationship with you and then be like, haha, I'm going to compete against you now. Like, that kind of sucks. I don't know if you could anticipate like somebody who would do that. You know what I mean?
I actually anticipate people
doing that.
that do that. Actually, I actually think of the worst possible case scenario. And actually I would challenge them to do it. And
I dare you
still
to do
have
it.
this. I dare you to do it, and then when you fail, come back and work. When I didn't say if.
Wow,
you know what I'm saying?
So you're just teaching them to fail, basically.
Yeah, because here's the thing, it's what we do is not easy, you know. And it takes a different type of person to do what we do. The reason that why we do what we do right now is because we never seeked out for another reseller to work for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, if I truly wanted to, I wouldn't go to a reseller. I would rather go to, like, work my way up in an enterprise or, like, a chain store, right? Like, if I truly want that, like, go up the ladder, I'd probably work at Foraker or get to a corporate. Yeah, or, you know,
so,
like, if in our industry, right? Like, I would work at a Nike outlet. Because, like, if it's just kind of, like, getting the trade secrets, there's not much trade secrets that all they got to do is watch Hustler Hacks for YouTube video. You know what I'm saying? And then just like that, you know? And I think it happens. I think it happens that people have enough confidence to say, like, oh, I'm going to compete with you. I can do what you do. It's only because these people, let's say the owner is only showing the bright side of the business. That fuels the, like, oh, this is easy. This is easy mentality. Like, oh, nothing, right? But I am the realist. I run my business. Like, if you're around me, and if you're working with me, I was like, you'll hear the bad side of it.
Yeah.
You know, I think if you don't say the bad side, people think that this is
right.
I'll be like, oh crap, we just got scammed by a PlayStation 5. What am I to do? Right? I just lost $500 right now. Yeah. You know, like, if somebody hears that, I'd be like, oh,
yeah, well,
let me list more for Ken so he won't feel so bad.
And or they can just live and learn if they're going to go out on their own. Like, you know, we've all had to ride those like ups and downs.
Yeah.
But
or going to be like, yeah, here's how much I paid in taxes. Here's how much I pay in fees. Would you be willing to pay this too?
Yeah. Great question.
Oh, here's actually, yeah.
But
yeah.
also,
so
like,
I'm saying, like, so.
This is all on the premise that you're hiring someone geographically close to you to come to your spaces and work in person with you. There's also the idea of like having a VA to do your listings or like other admin tasks. So that's another thing, like depending on what you want to outsource, like I wouldn't worry about, a VA halfway across the world competing against me starting a similar store. They're just going to be doing this kind of computer stuff and that's it, which maybe that's a simpler arrangement. I know a lot of people who use VAs for different stuff in their reselling business, so that's a viable one.
So you have your situation is a great situation regarding family. Let's say you're not in that situation. Where would one start to hire somebody to help them?
Well, I did just hire someone in my current state. So my sister-in-law still lives 600 miles away. I miss her. And she does admin stuff for me sometimes. She sources for me sometimes. And then like eventually when we see each other, we trade off those items. But my local person though is actually like a teenager looking for a summer job type of thing. And so that was kind of, which is great too, because that's also time limited, like I don't know that she'll have time to work for me still during the school year, but I could teach her to do photos and she's doing a great job. So that was something where I just kind of like heard through my network, right? I'm friends with her mom, her mom and dad, and they mentioned that she was, looking for something to do that was different over the summer. And I was like, well, I think she'd be really good at this. Do you think she'd be interested in it? And they were like, yeah, like, why don't you ask her about it? And the rest is kind of history. But I think that it is interesting to just think about, like, in your network, whether that's family, friends, church, other social groups, the gym, like wherever you socialize with people in any way, like who might be interested in it, who might be good at it, who might, have a need for a part-time, like a side gig or whatever. And just kind of think outside the box, I think there's a lot of people who don't want to or can't really swing a traditional workplace for whatever reason, who can be really good at the stuff that we do.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm always in the lookout for people saying like, oh, I don't have enough hours, kind of like that kind of job situation, wherever I am. I think that's the thing. I'm very hesitant on hiring people that ask me if they can work for me. I don't know why. I get weirded out by that.
You're like, why are you so obsessed with me? Don't stalk me.
Like they've thought of it, right? And they've had to muster all their it's like that's kind of sad though, right? When you say no to somebody that have thought about something, like, and then they actually say it, because that means they've had to probably muster up all the confidence to ask somebody to, hey, can I work for you?
Sad,
right?
Ken.
Yeah, and I look at it. It's really sad though, right? That's sad, but I've never had somebody hear no and try to prove him or herself to refute the no, that kind of saying like, your no, I'm gonna show you that I can provide more value than what
you're underestimating me.
You're underestimating.
They just
right?
tuck their
like when
tail
I
and
find
leave?
that person, they just like, oh, okay, I like kind of just like that, right? So in a way, I'm teaching him a real life lesson that yes is not easy, no is more often, but for me, I'm waiting for that person that has that drive to refute a no. Be like, no.
You know why? Because that's what you would do.
Yeah, that's what I would do. If I truly wanted to work for somebody and you told me no, I'll be like, oh, now I want to work for you.
So, which kind of interesting leads to, before we get into pay, which is going to be one of our topics here, of course. But before we get into pay, investing, which in my notes here, investing in training and development. So one of the funniest things that we have also encountered, of course, is like, man, if I hire somebody, I don't have time to train them. How long is that going to take for them to learn how to do this or to do that? Now I got to stop from my regular, daily tasks to invest in this time and maybe or money to train them, they could not quit in 2-3 weeks, despite you taking this time to train them. So how do you handle that? And what would be your tips on training somebody? Do you stop? You can't stop what you're doing. I mean, we know that, but how should that time be kind of, I guess, mixed in there for training? Ken? Or Anna? Sorry.
I would say
handbook? Ken has a handbook.
If you cannot, if you don't have enough time to train that person, you shouldn't hire.
What do you do then? Then you're drowning.
Yeah, you
drown.
You drown.
You just
Sorry.
drown.
Because
Game over.
because here's the thing, right? Look at it, right? Like you're like a captain of a boat, right? You're just by yourself now. And then you say like, I gotta keep driving, but I have a hole in the bottom of the boat. But Anna comes in like, hey, can I work for you? And it's like the captain saying, no, Anna, I don't got time for you to train you how to scoop the water out of the boat.
Yeah.
You're just eventually gonna drown, right? Because even if you put that one person there to scoop the water in the boat, he or she's not gonna be enough to scoop it out, because he's not gonna be trained to how to scoop it out better. But I, as a captain, gotta be like, okay, I cannot move forward until we get this water out of the boat. So I gotta stop my role.
Yeah.
If I'm a solo captain, go down there in the bottom of the boat and be like, hey Anna, this is how we're gonna scoop it out. We gotta work together really well to scoop it out before we can head to the next direction. So that's how I see it. Wow, that was a great ideology I just came up with.
No cherries or nothing.
Sure. Yeah, everyone's milkshakes are safe today. No, I love that though. It's like you.
Yeah.
I definitely have heard people say, right? Oh, I can't afford that. I don't have the time for that. I can't afford it in my schedule. And it's like, you can't afford not to. If you're that slammed, you can't afford not to train someone. And don't like skimp on training them either, because the better they're trained, the better, the more efficient and better your overall investment of time and money is going to be. So I do think though that there are a couple of things you can do to kind of minimize the commitment, right? You don't want a big time suck for training somebody. But number one, I think you can have them go study your store. If you're having them do anything that ends up in your listing, right? Whether it's researching photos, putting together the item specifics, or whatever kind of stuff they're doing. Or even if they're processing inventory, just to get to know the type of stuff that you sell. Have them go look at your store and study up on it, right? Like so they have a clue. And have some preliminary conversations where you're setting expectations. And then I say agree on like a trial period. Like, all right, I'm going to spend, this week, I want you to come 3 days. The first day, you're just going to be watching me. She's going to watch what I do. I'm going to talk to you as I'm doing it. And then, when you feel like you've kind of got it down, then you're going to step in my place and you're going to try, and I'm going to talk you through you doing it, whatever it is. Yep. And then you're going to talk me through you doing it, because I want to know your thought process. Like, have a basic training paradigm like that and say, let's try that for a day and then let's see where we're at. Right. So like, I think setting realistic expectations, evaluation checkpoints as you go, and getting feedback from them too. Like, is this something that you can see yourself continuing to do? Like, do you feel overwhelmed by it? Do you feel like you understand it? Do you have any questions? Like, just really focus on good communication, model it, have them shadow, and then put them in, as soon as you feel like they're ready to try it, just put them in quick. Don't keep them on the bench for 2 weeks just watching you. Yeah. Like, lots of people learn by doing, most people. And you've got to be sensitive to that as a trainer.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Shadowing is the most effective. Shadowing and feedback. I think those are two of the most, and I agree with that. Like, don't put them on a bench too long.
Yeah.
Put them out there. And I like, reverse shadow, right? They shadow you and then you shadow them. That's pretty much what we've done. Kind of like what I've done with JC and what JC have done with other people that have worked with us. I'm gonna say it out loud. She says like, babe, I don't know how you did it with me, but now I know how hard it is. because now she had to shadow other people. she's like, babe, but babe, and she's like, babe, have patience, and she's like, you really use all your patience with me.
It takes a
because
lot.
it will.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to like not stop and not kind of like interfere because you want the lesson to be learned, but catch it enough that it doesn't get shipped wrong.
Yeah,
you know
of
what I'm saying?
course.
So it's like,
Yeah.
you gotta find all that. But I think that's the biggest thing, shadowing.
Well, and like in that scenario, if they're with you physically present, right, learning to do a physical task, it's like, great. You're not actually stopping your work. You might be slowing it down a little bit, but like you're still getting your work done for the day, right? And that can kind of mitigate some of the burden of training somebody too, where it's like, okay, but maybe it took me longer, but at the end of the day, literally everything got done still.
Yeah. You might. Yeah, for me, like I'm looking at it like I lost my nap for the day, or I ate late, or I had a shorter lunch, or I woke up early, or slept a little bit late. That's kind of like how I see it. It's like it's just a slower. You just slow down. You never really stop to train somebody, because to be able to fully train somebody, you got to be moving anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So speaking of time, or wasting time, or using time, it leads to pay. And how much should you be paying somebody, or does it matter, maybe, let's say, per task? Or let's say, I'm going to pay, let's say you're taking photos per item.
Yeah, per item or something.
Or you can do, hey, I'm paying you per hour, but you have these sort of tasks that might come up during the full day, right? Like hour number 1 are photos. Hour number 2 is shipping. And you're getting paid per hour. What do you think about that? Is there any right or wrong there?
I don't know.
You have more experience on that.
Yeah, I've done it both ways, so I don't know if there's right or wrong. But I think so. In either case, a benefit of the way that I have treated contractors and their role is that it's very flexible. Like schedule wise, it's very flexible. There was one contractor I have whom I love. Also, shout out to you, Kason. But he would take the items away from my house and photograph them at his house. And so I didn't know how long it would take him to do any of that. So I actually paid him by item, because it was like, well, if you do it really fast, great, you're incentivized to do it really fast. He still had to do the standard of quality, but he got really fast and really good at it, then good for him. He just made a better hourly rate, And then for my sister-in-law Amanda, who is, she's been like my most like used contractor, most hours of all time, like my ride or die, and she has done a lot more different tasks. Like, for example, she did photos also, but she actually did a lot more, like if the items had to like get tags removed or cleaned up if they were from the thrift store or whatever, like she prepped items and photographed them. Yeah, and she logged them in a spreadsheet. So she did like a few more like adjacent tasks, I would say, not just straight photos. And so for her, it was always hourly, I think, or at least it has been in the most recent years. Maybe there was a time that it was per item, but I don't really remember. Mostly it's been like hourly, so that she can kind of take care of those tasks as needed. And also, like with Kason, I chose what items he was going to photograph, and I just gave him here's your bin full of items. He'd pick it up from my front porch. It was great. He could work on it, whatever. But with Amanda, it was like kind of anything and everything ended up getting processed through her. Like with her, I was working through estate cleanouts sometimes. She would like go in there literally with the rubber gloves and mask with me to like clean out like a house or whatever. So for her, it just made more sense to be hourly, I guess. So she had a lot of variation in the items too. Like Kason, I could sometimes give him a whole bin of similar items, so they would take a similar amount of time. But for her, it was like more kind of micro tasks involved and way more variation in the items. So all of that was, pre-listing. I've never hired someone to do shipping with me. But I feel like in my case, because of my inventory, it would be a similar situation of some things take 30 seconds to pack, some things take 30 minutes to pack. And so how do you account for that per item? I think it'd be too hard. So I think I would do hourly in that case too.
Yeah, I think for us, we've always done hourly. Just because a lot of the tasks that we were doing was never like them by themselves. So if we're processing newer inventory, it's just I just needed more hands. When we're shipping, I just needed more hands because we're just doing it. You know what happened is we just got it done faster.
Yeah.
So like the way I'm thinking it is, we could have done it ourselves. We would just be working for 8 hours straight. But can I pay somebody $50 to cut it in half?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like how I see it.
Yeah.
Like a lot of like, you know, listings, right? Like JC can go through, can list 1,000 items, but it won't be fun, right? It would be like either she could get it done in a month, but can we do it in 2 weeks and pay somebody, you know, $100 a day to get it done in 2 weeks, and then, you know, like you just have to do the math. Like, okay, if we get to put up 100 listings a day combined,
Yeah.
that means I'm just only paying $1 extra.
Yeah,
per
for
listing.
sure.
So that's kind of like how the way I look at it. But I think hourly is kind of like, I don't think it's a long term. Hourly is it's not a long term strategy because it feels like when they're getting better, when the employee is getting better, or the person doing the task gets better, they become faster.
Yeah.
So I feel like hourly is good, but you gotta have parameters. So you know, like JC's time is like 2 minutes and 40 seconds, though, that she can get a shoe photograph, drafted, and listed. So that's kind of like how I see it, right? Okay, so we rounded it off to 5 minutes to like a newbie.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, you'll take double the time as JC could do it, and that's kind of like how it's like, okay, within an hour you should be able to put up 30, or, you know, off the same because it's the shoes, right? So
Right,
it's like
right.
very repetitive and stuff like that. So at that point we kind of like coach them, be like, okay, you could do it two ways. You do it 30 times repetitive, or you could take photos 30 times and list 30 times, right? It's usually one or the other. It's never been, you know, a simple yes or no or this and that kind of combination, because I think, you know, after listing an hour, like, you want to like stand up, you want to do something different. So I think the mentality of like a quick help, contract help works for like an hourly base. But if you want to do like a long-term person that wants to be better over time, I think like a per piece would be really motivating them to kind of like put up, you know, listings or ship better, or take photo faster, something like that.
Well, like a benchmark, I think, is helpful too, whether it's, no matter what the task is. Like, I've had the same sort of calculus of like, okay, how many, when I'm doing it myself, like how many items, assorted items, can I photograph in an hour? And then according to, you know, the person's experience, or like level of training, even like level of experience just with me so far, like how much am I expecting them to do? Is it going to be equivalent to what I'm doing, or is it okay if it's a little bit less? And what is that margin? And, you know, are you looking over the weeks or months for like increase in speed or efficiency? Like, you have to keep your eye on that a little bit. But honestly, for me, part of the magic of it is like, when somebody gets proficient at their task, I'm like, I'm so grateful you're here doing this, and I trust you that you are going to be efficient. Like, you know, there's no like nothing kind of flagging like, hey, they're just dilly-dallying all the time or whatever. Like, they're about their business, they're doing their work, they're getting it done well. And if there's a little variation in that, that's fine with me, because I'm glad to have this person in place and, you know, proficiently doing their task. So I don't like micromanage it, is what I'm saying.
Okay. A little freedom there.
Yeah.
I think what maybe basic resellers, if you don't have that business background or have done this before, you know, like Ken's done different businesses before, they're not really understanding the overhead that comes with it. So if you have somebody taking photos or shipping and you're paying them out, But in reality, your items cost this much, your fees cost this much, your
Yeah.
storage costs this much. You can really find yourself drowning in your own boat from hiring because you didn't
Yeah.
really know your numbers, and you're
Yeah.
paying them out more than what you're actually profiting
Yeah.
in the end. Do you think that would, I mean, if you're like a single reseller, like you could definitely run into that problem. I mean,
I feel like you have to. I think if you don't truly know your
Yeah.
numbers, you shouldn't be hiring. I think that's one. Um, I would say, like the way I look at it, right? Like you gotta know your average sell price and what your cost on average will be, on how much you're making per product. At one point when we were doing clothing, during whatnot and stuff like that, we're making roughly around $18 to $20 per piece profit, right? And at that point I was like, okay, if we process 500, if we process we prep and sell 300 items, let's just say 200 on the bottom end, and I'm willing to give 50 cents per piece, that's $100 for the assistant, so I'm willing to do that. And that's when you have to question yourselves, because if you think about it, right, you're actually taking a pay cut. That's how the
yeah,
way I look at it.
exactly.
You're actually taking a pay cut to get more stuff done
More
in a
time.
way,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, to buy back your time. And that's kind of like the way I look at it. Unless you're really trying to build an empire of, kind of like a warehouse facility, then you don't really have to think about that. But I think the first few hires really is gonna be coming out of your pocket, and that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I think too. I mean, there's a little bit of personalized kind of opportunity cost type of stuff built into this too. Like what I'm thinking is, okay, for example, my photographer that I have here with me now, who's pretty new. She's just working for me over the summer. And let's see, in like June, I would say it probably took me like almost all month to photograph and list 90 items because I had so much other stuff going on. Shipping always has to happen. So photographing, drafting, listing got pushed and pushed sometimes. It took me a long time, which my goal since I moved here, by the way, has pretty much been to list 100 items a month because I want to continue to downsize a little bit gradually. And I always sell like way more than 100 items in a month. So that's a guaranteed formula for that. But anyway, it took me almost all month to hit my goal of that in June. But in July, she came one day and did photos the whole time. She was here. It was like 5 or 6 hours. I did photos alongside her about half the time, like with my own photo setup. We got 90 things done in a day. That. Right. And then the whole rest of the month was like, okay, great. Well, I basically already met, I had to actually list them after that, which I did way quicker because it was already, all the photos were already done, right? I did that in a couple days, like spread out over a couple days. And then the whole rest of the month was like, pretty much like, all right, well, my listing goal is done. So now I can focus my attention elsewhere. And, I can focus more on sourcing. I can focus more on just like other stuff in the business behind the scenes, or so the podcast. I can focus more on other things. And I think that is really super valuable also, like as far as the effectiveness of those 5 or 6 hours that she worked for me.
Yeah, I was going to say that some sellers might feel very like overwhelmed and like, hey, I really need to hire her out. You do hire her out, they do well. And then 2 weeks down the road, you're like, I don't have anything else for them to do now that I'm caught up.
That's part of setting the expectations in the beginning, like whether this is going to be super steady or not, like steady work. Yeah.
Yeah. So how would you keep them with steady work? That would also come from you to keep that, the items coming in, the inventory coming in,
you gotta bring in more work. I think I like how Anna kind of like said it, like what's your goal, target, and listing, right? Because I think that's kind of like how everything depends, right? Like, let's say I want to list 100 items a week. I have to source 100 items a week, right? So I feel like, and then you just multiply it by 4, then that's your monthly goal. And hiring a help will it cut down in half, right? So I think that's kind of like how the way you think, look at it. Like, if what I'm doing right now is cut in half, what am I doing with the extra time? So if I'm pulling back, I'm plugging, right? Then okay, store's the same. I would say you could maintain, right? Keep the level of inventory. Like your goal is to just keep 1,000 listings, right? Like so, it could fluctuate the
Yeah.
way it sells, right? So I think that's kind of like, you have to be able to know that, and see, like the thing is, we've ran into issues about like, oh, like what are we gonna have them do today? But there's always stuff to do. I would say if you have 1,000 listings plus, there's
Yeah.
always stuff to do. Like one day I was just like double check every pairs, double check everything, rearrange everything, kind of like just doing that, and then being okay with like, okay, I'm paying somebody $100 a day to just do this task. Is it worth it? That's kind of like how you have to think about it, right? Or whenever you're sourcing, right? Like I've brought people sourcing with me, and you're paying them that. I usually pay them less because they don't really have much to do besides be a body and carry stuff. Like you'll eat well today, that's for sure. That's what I always say to the boys. Like we're eating wherever you want after, but you're getting state pay, like minimum plus some, and stuff like that. So I think yeah, you have to. And I feel like when you're hiring and when you have somebody, it will push you to do more. Feels like.
Yeah. I think so. I think most people do hire for kind of growth mode, right? Or at least that's the first time you think about it, because you're up against yourself. You're up against the wall, kind of, right? You're hitting the bottlenecks. But I think, yeah, it's interesting to think about, like what you would have them do if they kind of run out of the initial task. But I guess for me, I've always had what is the next thing I would train them on in mind. And so then if that opportunity arises, like, and the beautiful thing is everything we do is a cycle. So what is the next step in the process?
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you'd be willing to teach them to even like literally assist you with? Like, I mean, even if you're not going to trust somebody to do all the shipping, could they be your tape gun person? Could you just be like, this, okay, tape this, like you're packing it up and they're literally doing
make
a micro
10 boxes
task.
or 20
yeah,
boxes.
Right. They could be your assistant,
Yeah.
like even if they can't take over a whole task. So there is that, but also kind of like I said in the very beginning, like setting realistic expectations for them. Like some weeks I might have 10 hours of stuff for you to do, and some weeks I might have no hours of stuff, or maybe just like 3 to 5 hours, or depending on how much new inventory I have or whatever. But that's something to kind of gauge also.
Yeah.
Like, is that okay with them for it to be really fluid like that? Or do they want some kind of a guarantee? And if that's the case, and you kind of know your inventory flow already, then maybe what you commit to is only 5 hours a week, even if you have 10. And it's like you save the next 5 for next week, like you could pace it how you want. When I first hired anyone, I had just started cleaning out my first estate. So I had like a whole storage unit of stuff to process. And I was like, this is going to take the rest of my life if I do this by myself. So that was like, I literally got to get somebody to help me or this will never be done. It felt infinite. So that was not, that was not a concern for me. It was just like, how much can I afford to pay you to do, and how much are you willing to do every week? Because there's a huge amount of stuff. So if you're in a situation like that, or you have a death pile, that's a great place to start.
I think if what could happen too, let's say like, if Ken wanted to do a full blown like business from hiring in all aspects, he could have gotten there. But you have to realize if you want to be there. And my example would be like, hey, I hired a shipper. Hey, I hired a person that just takes photos. Hey, I hired a person that just does listings. I'm just sourcing, and then they do everything else. So obviously, like Ken said, all right, you're taking a pay cut for each individual. You're paying them all out. Next thing you know, you're like, we don't have enough room in here. Now I got to get a warehouse. Like next thing you know, you're running a full blown thing where you're the manager and owner of this, and you're managing all of these people and all of their tasks to keep this thing growing. And you could say, man, this is really what I wanted with the growth. Or you can be like, man, I was just a small eBay seller. I didn't want to be some sort of micromanager on all these people. Yeah. Like I just wanted to source, listings and kind of like a semi part-time and but still enough to pay the bills. So you got to decide, I guess, what you really want too.
Yeah, and it's like and that's why I feel like a lot of us, at some point we'll have to face that,
Reality.
like that decision. Yeah, because at that point you're not messing with somebody's, lunch money. Somebody's depending
Yeah.
on you, right? Or if they've bought the vision and jumped on board, you can't be jet skiing around the water now. You have a
Hmm.
boat. You have a crew with you. You just can't abandon ship
Yeah.
easily now. So I think that's the important, and I'm not saying like it's one or the other. You can try both. You have to try both, I believe. You have to try both. And I think that's why I'm in the position where I'm at right now, because I have tried the other. I have tried the other, and realizing the pros and cons. Um, but there is always a hybrid. There's the hybrid of like kind of like the contract worker slash hired help, somebody that wants extra money. So a lot of those tasks that you can design for them could be easily done on, like, Q4 help. I mean, the same way with, post office, they have seasonal workers. And any other jobs, everybody hires seasonal. So I think for me, that's kind of like where I personally want to be at, because when it's seasonal or temporary, it feels like that person is really just there to like either make a lot of money, or just kind of like, okay, I have extra free time. Let me dedicate this to helping Ken run his business. So that's kind of like how the way I see it, where it's gonna be a win-win. That contract, kind of like Anna's photo summer job, kind of like that, because I think there's a lot of people that just wants to do like quick part-time summer contract, and if you guys can work together, schedule, figure it out, I think it will be very beneficial for both. Yeah.
There's a little bit of a sprint mentality with that. But I will say, like, the couple of years that I had Amanda doing the most work for me, like those 2 years was the 2 years my business made the most sales. So it definitely directly translated. We were listing so much, and it was totally awesome, totally worth it. Uh, and that's really nice too. I'll just like leave that as a final note a little bit, that if you are gonna hire someone, like Ken said, know your numbers, but then watch your numbers, because it is really awesome to see the payoff of hiring that help and churning out that extra work, becoming more efficient. Like, it's pretty cool.
Nice. Well, that's what I wanted to talk about today. I mean, I'm gonna finish off just on my situation on why I had this topic. So I did hire somebody to take photos. I felt like photos was one that took the most time. You know what I mean? Like photos are just, but mostly because it's jerseys and not shoes. I think if they were shoes,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been too bad. Jerseys with measurements, clothing, like Ken said, does take the longest. I mean,
Yeah.
and so I am paying per item, and it's a friend of mine, like his cousin, who also works for him. So he does like a little. It's kind of like a part time there, part time
Yeah.
with me type of thing for
Yeah.
now. Um, but it's also like he's kind of used to like deadlines as well. So it's like this needs to be done by today or
Right.
tomorrow, like these sort of deadlines. So right now he is getting used to like taking the photos. He's done a great job right now. Um, and I've been reviewing them. Everything looks good. And so now it's just a matter of like once I get these photos to get these listings, cranked out. I think listings, especially because it's only that one category, is so easy with just a sell similar, and it's like I only have like three sorts or of jerseys that could really be listed, so it's not really like out of the ordinary, you know.
Yeah.
So I think
It's
that's
not
going to
too
be
unique.
easier for me.
Yeah.
And I think, like, because even the daily listings for me were just, you know, taking a while as well. And I'd rather just knock out one full day of listings rather than one full day of just photos, and I still have to list them. You know, like, that's going to take,
That's
like,
true.
another, you know, who knows how long. So if I just do one full day of sell similars, you could knock out a ton of them pretty easily. So that's where I'm at right now, and I'm going to take it from there. So I guess I'll keep everybody posted on the podcast and, of course, my expert panel here as well.
Alrighty. We'll see you on the next episode. Appreciate y'all. Peace.
See ya.
Bye.